Welcome to the show. This week we're covering huge news. Biden must be shocked because most car makers are making a demand to ditch EVs. Well, at least that's what one big YouTube story is covering. Their title really is Huge News. Biden shocked as all car makers demand to ditch EVs. We're going to be talking about that, and I'm putting a question mark on that because I'm going to say don't be fooled. We'll cover the real deal. They charge something. It's an AI generated. I think it's an AI generated channel. But let's get to the real deal behind this. Yes, Biden is being demanded to not ditch EVs, but to slow down. And that's the real story here. It's not 100% all anti-EV. It's just a slowing down so that manufacturers have a chance to adapt. And there's a lot of amazing technology coming down the road that could very well kind of destroy our trade-in values on the current technology. So why have millions of more people driving electric vehicles under current technology when the charge network could use a little bit more time to develop? And we're not that far off from incredible new battery technologies. And I'm going to cover exactly in depth what that new battery technology is next week in a live. So make sure not to miss next week's live as we talk about Ford and VW and how they have some amazing news. I still think I'll be one of the only channels or the only channel that'll cover that news, even if I delay it by a week. But the huge news here when it comes to EVs is yes, Biden is being asked not to ditch, but slow down the EV production. You've got over 4,000 dealers who've signed a letter to Biden to slow down this whole push for EVs. And it's a bit of a forced push. No one likes to be forced, folks. I think we can all agree with that. And it's really just the forced adoption that they want to, get ditched. And you look at Canada, you look at Europe, some people have, some countries have laws where all produced vehicles, all sold vehicles by 2035 are going to be electric. But we need to actually get the network up and running. So what's going on with this story? Even manufacturers, not just the dealers that are loading up and having on average an 88-day supply of electric vehicles. And these are expensive. These vehicles come with huge interest payments on them. In 88 days of inventory, it's starting to get on the lengthy side. It's starting to be a good amount of interest that you're paying on each vehicle. So the dealers are asking it, but the manufacturers are also asking Biden to slow down and other politicians to slow down this fast, quick push to full EVs. The energy grid, the individuals in charge for clean, renewable electricity should definitely be asking to slow down. What are we going to do? Build more coal plants to power these things? Fast chargers take up a lot of power. When you're on that 350 kilowatt fast charger, I don't have the exact math in front of me, but I'll try to get it for next week. If I'm not mistaken, you're using up the electricity of like 108 homes for that one fast charging a vehicle. So you've got new EPA regulations that are coming into effect in the coming years. I've talked about this in other episodes. It's that whole fleet average. Well, the 50 mile per gallon fleet average means that to survive that, unless there's a huge change in petrol-powered vehicle technology to make them consume far less fuel, it either means gas-powered vehicles need to end up with new technology and be very light and very small, the whole vehicle. We like our space. Americans and Canadians aren't tiny little 5-foot tall average people. We need our space. We have families. We'd like to continue to have families. We'd also like to save the steak, of course. But the new EPA regulations are really tough. And Biden has put in some really tough EPA regulations. So in the coming years, this would force manufacturers to either pay billions in fines, as Dodge already has, and that's why Dodge has had to cut the Dodge Challenger and Dodge Charger out of the line, because they're selling a lot of them. They're popular, they're good vehicles, but it was making their fleet average go up. So they had to pay billions in dollars in fines every year to the government or buy carbon credits from Tesla. So Yeah, they bought the carbon credits from Tesla. They're paying to make their competitor more competitive, making it cost more to catch up because your competitor is being paid money by you and just moving more and more, ahead. But even Tesla has been dropping the prices on their models to try to keep volume up and not have a bad sales year. So this rush to get into EVs is costing manufacturers billions of dollars. So these stringent emissions laws would require roughly 2/3 of all new vehicles produced to be fully electric by 2032. Meanwhile, makers like Honda, Toyota, BMW, remember Toyota is very, very slow to get into the full electric game. They like hybrids and plug-ins. But the likes of, Honda, Toyota, BMW, and Porsche, they're slow on the EV game, and the Porsche doesn't want to get rid of the gasoline petrol-powered 911. They want to sell enough Taycans and enough electric vehicles to still be able to produce their beloved petrol vehicles. So many feel that going all electric across an entire fleet isn't the solution yet. And remember, battery technology is going to be changing. We're going to be looking at solid state batteries. Ford and VW are, mostly VW through the company QuantumScape, are looking at solid state batteries. And right now, QuantumScape has tested a 24-layer battery, solid state battery, for 1,000 hours, which is the equivalent of doing 300,000 miles, and it only lost 5% degradation. It only lost 5% of its capacities in regards to autonomy and charge. So all those charge and decharge, full battery to no battery, only caused a 5% loss in the stats of the battery. Autonomy, charge time, being able to hold a charge. That's many, many, many more times more reliable than the lithium ion batteries that we're creating right now. Ford has lithium iron phosphate batteries in the work, which would remove some of the environmentally horrible and elements from the lithium ion batteries. So that's the next closest technology, but there's going to be upcoming technology in the next few, between now and a couple of years. We'll have new batteries that people might considerably like more than lithium ion, which could affect resale values. And we also have the solid state batteries, which could, when they come out, kind of destroy the trade-in values of current electric vehicles. So I think everyone's kind of like, hey, hold up here. So this rush has caused EVs to be, and I think being that companies are in such a rush to produce these EVs, well, Consumer Reports says that they're 80% less reliable. And that's according to Consumer Reports. Consumer Reports is saying that owners are finding that, 80% more than petrol-powered vehicles, they're finding 80% more problems. So fit and finish, assembly, spacing between the lines, paint problems, battery problems. Now, surprisingly, hybrids, which Ford originally was, all in with hybrids with Toyota. Toyota continued to be all in on hybrids, or almost all in on hybrids. Surprisingly, hybrids have 25% fewer problems than EVs, which is odd because what I hear from consumers on a regular basis, folks, is that they expect a hybrid to be twice as bad as either an electric or a gas, because they figure, well, it's going to have all the problems that electric vehicles have and all the problems that a gas petrol-powered vehicle has. So it's going to end up with at least twice as many problems. But no, they're 25% fewer problems on a hybrid. Toyota has gone hard on hybrids. They love their hybrids. The previous CEO left, and then the new CEO came in and was like, okay, now we're getting in with the EVs. The old guy, he wasn't into them, but I'm going to do the right thing. But now it looks at like Toyota's like, yeah, hybrids are a good solution. So this actually comes as a big shock to many consumers who really did think that when you have a hybrid, you've got both systems, it's going to be twice as bad. And it's not. It's 25% less problematic. And I think that's maybe why Toyota was so into They're hybrids. And I know Ford, that, you know, it looks like they did a lot of work. They're now working with Volkswagen. They had a partnership with Toyota in the past. And those vehicles are incredible. You know, you look at the C-Max, the Ford Fusion, fantastic. You look at the Ford Maverick, still, the transmission on the Ford Maverick and the Escape, this goes back, it's similar to what was seen back when Ford and Toyota were working together. And you know what? The Ford Escape, the Ford Maverick, the C-Max, the Ford Fusion, the Toyota RAV4 hybrid, the Prius, these are all great hybrids, whether they're traditional hybrid or plug-in hybrid. So traditional hybrid, you have a smaller battery, about 1 to 3 kilowatts, and it generally saves you 20 to 30% off your fuel bill. Whereas a plug-in will have anything from, you know, a 10 to 20, 23 kilowatt battery. It's not completely a fully electric vehicle, but it'll usually allow you to do 20 to 50 miles in all electric mode, or you don't force the vehicle to be all electric and you benefit from using about almost a third less fuel. So more than half as much fuel gets used when driving a plug-in hybrid. That the plug-in battery, you know, you do need to plug it in every night if you're driving it every day. Now, where are EVs having problems? Well, first of all, there's battery issues, and not just that they get roughly 30% less autonomy in cold temperatures, but extreme temps can have an impact on long-term durability. Charging too fast, allowing too quick of a charge is harder on the batteries and most certainly affects durability. Not preconditioning the battery before. So you leave it out in the hot sun or the extreme cold and you don't have it plugged in first and you just get in and you start driving it fast. Not ideal. So, and of course, if you have an accident with an EV, your insurance companies are liking less and less these EVs because they're charging more for the insurance. Because if you have an accident and the battery cell is affected currently, incredibly expensive to switch these out. Now, second reason that we've got more problems on EVs, rushed EV models have caused problems for makers like GM, where many GM EV owners have complained about poor assembly and rattles. Charge Drive covered that. That's true. Good point. But they also commented just general poor build quality. That I'm not too sure about, but that's what ChargePoint was saying in regards to battery problems. EVs at GM. Now, they pointed out third issue with EVs and their batteries are charging issues. And I agree, and I'm even going to add to what ChargePoint said in their YouTube video. They said finding a good charger is just the first issue, and that's so true. You need to find a good charger, one that doesn't have the cables cut, one that currently works, that's connected, because in some areas, they're not so great at getting them running and maintaining them, and you can have as many as 40% of the chargers in a given area not function, and your screen doesn't always tell you if they're not functioning. Someone needs to report it into the system and whatnot. So there's also another issue that I'll add on. Many chargers are 50 kilowatt or less, and these 50 kilowatt chargers I've experienced with the Lightning. You stop for a meal, you've been plugged in for an hour, you don't get that much power back on 50 kilowatts. At home, I charge at 40 kilowatts, and it takes me well over 13 hours to fully charge my battery. Generally, I always have like 30-40% left, and it takes me 10 hours to get up to about 100%. But that's at 40 kilowatts. So 50 kilowatts, not that effective. Finding a 150 kilowatt charger can be harder, and finding a 350 kilowatt charger can be very difficult. And some companies like Ford don't want you charging at 350 kilowatts because of the long-term durability, wanting to avoid fires and whatnot. And as such, they won't let it. They only take 150 kilowatts. You can go to a 350 kilowatt charger and they'll only let in 150 kilowatts at most. And here's another issue. You plug into a 50, you often don't get 50 kilowatts. You plug into 150, you pretty much will never get 150 kilowatts unless you know a few tricks. And the 350 kilowatt, you might end up getting 200 or 250 kilowatts. So it requires a little more planning when you want to make a trip. And even if you plan your trip accordingly. You're not going to get 100% charge out of, or power out of, that charger. So what can you do to get closer to 100%? Well, it's kind of like mentally, it is preconditioning your battery. You put it in your vehicle's navigation system that you're going to go to a charger so that the vehicle can pre-charge your vehicle, prepare your battery for taking in that big charge. And it seems to help on my Ford truck, and it seems to really help with my colleague and friend's Mach-E. He does that trick, and he said it's working for him really well. So far, many have noted that when you select the charger in the navigation menus, things are better in regards to getting more power to your battery. Now, another issue is how much electricity is actually required and used when fast charging. At the moment, EVs only make up 7%, 7.9% to be more percent of total sales. Is that a young Hillary Clinton in the back? Well, that certainly makes me trust. Oh, no, it's not. Okay, I was about to totally lose trust in EVs altogether. Just a joke. Don't be too offended. And if you are, well, I don't know. I'm a little bitter since the Epstein list came out. Lots of evil people out there. So EV charging on fast chargers, you got only 7.9% of all vehicles being sold as EVs in the States. And already, I'm going to do the math for a future episode, but I'm thinking on the fast chargers, you're using about the power of 108 homes. So I don't know how, and I had a clip for it, and it's been censored. The clip I was going to show you has been censored. And if we make it into the rants of all the clips I should have been censored and not allowed to show, all the other ones are worse and more like, we need to pay attention to this. We need to save the steak, folks. So I have in my notes, let me play this clip for you. And I can't. I tried to get it going, and then I had some seafood eating issues, and that's why the show started late this week. But let's move on. The fourth variable or problem to consider, folks, and this is a problem you're going to want to avoid, is that most EVs have a range of about 300 miles. So that means avoid the problem altogether. I'm not saying don't buy an EV. I'm saying have a Bronco on the side, have a Jeep Wrangler, have a Volkswagen, not a Jetta. Oh, the resale is bad. But the Volkswagen hatchback the Golf has good resale. That'd be a good option. Mazda 3, lovely vehicle. So anyways, have a petrol-powered vehicle on the side for when you want to take trips. When we go to Florida, still trying to figure out, I want to get together with the community in Florida, take Ridgeview's invitation, and maybe stay with him for a few days. And I want to meet you all at the restaurant, at a Ford restaurant in Florida, but I can't take my Lightning. In the summer, it would be 10 stops of 45 minutes once I'm at the charger, plugged in and charging, and that's 6 hours. With driving off the highway, it's not as if you go down the highway, and it should be this way. It'd be ideal, but at every, welcome to our state, chargers. Here's a bathroom on the side of the highway, chargers. Things are going to get better. The network in certain areas is horrific. In other areas, it sucks. And in some areas, it's great. In Quebec, it's one of the best electric networks. I still was annoyed because I was like, I'm not sure if I can get to the 150 kilowatts. So I took a 50 kilowatt. I couldn't get it done. So, and DMAC makes a great point. Vehicles are barely affordable. How can we afford an electric vehicle? They generally cost more. 4 high, 4 low, I will want to meet you in Florida. But right now, we've got no one to take care of the dogs, and I don't want to pay. I've got 2 poodles. I don't want to pay $100 for the 2 of them, $100 or more per day and night, so that I leave for, let's say I leave for 10, 12, or 14 days. If I'm driving down, I'd be gone for 14 days. Well, heck, you can do the math on that. That would hurt. So if I come down, I might have to take the plane from New Hampshire and come down alone. Just have to figure out if I can be away from my ladies for that long. Now, you don't want to be away from your electric vehicle for too long, because all batteries slowly lose their charge. So it would make me nervous being like, I'm going to go to Florida for 6 months. I'm going to leave the Lightning here out in the cold outside. That would stress me. I haven't made a plan for that yet for later on in life. And I don't know what all in the electric future, what people are going to do in northern climates when they want to go to Florida for 4 or 5 months. I guess you leave your vehicle plugged in the whole time. Anyways, that means it's not at the airport. So there's a lot of, uncertainty. One of them is generally EVs make 300 miles. You want more than 300 miles of autonomy, you're going to pay a fortune, and just generally all the electric vehicles cost more. So if they don't come with subventions in your area, government money, they're pretty expensive. So 300 miles is at ideal temperatures. That can be cut down in extreme cold or extreme heat. I haven't tested in extreme heat, but I've tested electric vehicles in extreme cold. You can lose 50%. Of course, preconditioning your battery and having it plugged in before taking it off. Heck, my Lightning even tells me outside temperatures are cold. Plug it in when you're done driving. But generally, you lose about 30%. It all depends on how extreme the weather is. So how do manufacturers feel about this? Well, Mercedes is calling the EV market a brutal space. Ford has cut its planned production in half, and that's planned production. Everyone's saying Ford's cut production in half on their EVs. No, they've cut their planned production of the Ford F-150 Lightning. And remember, originally when they first announced the vehicle, they were saying they had a certain plan. Then they said, well, you know what? From original numbers, we're going to make twice as many. Then they said, we're going to make twice as many. So many times they said they're going to increase production. And originally it looked like by 2026, the plan was to make 600,000 EVs per year. Well, on the F-150 side, which they're losing money when they sell you one, roughly $32,000 per electric vehicle, Ford is going to cut half of the planned production. So half as many from their high last numbers. So if they were planning on making 400,000 Lightnings per year, it means now they're planning on making 200,000 Lightnings and hopefully won't have to pay billions in fines or carbon credit money thrown to Tesla. So it was they ended up with very, very high targets, and they've cut back from that. Now, let's remember that Ford had planned on building 2 million EVs per year by 2026. So can you blame Ford when they're losing money to cut back on the Lightning production? I certainly am not taking it. Doesn't rub me the wrong way. So Ford will have lost roughly $4 billion chasing the electric vehicle mandates. So yes, the electric vehicle mandates, they've lost money on it. Now you do have the Inflation Reduction Act. It's going to be very difficult for North American manufacturers to build EVs with Chinese batteries. They need to bring battery production here. Otherwise, they're going to lose out on government rebates for the buyers of the vehicles. So government rebates will dry up for them and the buyers. So they've got to bring battery production home. And of course, there's always the issue when you're buying all these batteries with China. What happens if you end up in a verbal argument, a very serious verbal argument, or a physical altercation with between two militaries? Well, there goes your batteries. So these aren't independent companies that are going to sell to the highest bidder. They're Chinese-owned companies. The government owns the companies. The government tells them what to do when they need to tell them what to do. So that's a very serious issue. So Biden's goal was that by 2032, 60% of vehicles sold are EVs. 2035 worldwide in many countries is a 100% EV sold requirement. So I think a lot of people are not thrilled about being forced. I would think that it's quite normal that dealers get worried, like, hey, how's this going to affect our bottom line? Are we going to be stacking vehicles and paying crazy interest on them? So here's the big question. Will you consider an EV? Let us know in the comments section, please. While you're in the comments section, hit a thumbs up, share this content with as many people as possible. And do please hit the bell notification on, because we are a small family business. And M. Peugeot, we are moving on towards a rant, but please comment. I know that things are going to get better. I've talked a little bit about future battery production. We're going to have solid state batteries. We also have graphene manufacturing, trying to use technology from Queensland University with a graphene battery, aluminum graphene battery, and in initial small battery tests, they were charging, about 10 times faster, or more, 60 times faster. Instead of charging a cell phone at an hour, the battery charge was taking 1 minute, so up to 60 times faster charging for the appropriate size, about 3 times more autonomy, you could say, than your traditional lithium iron battery. So there is a lot of excitement with that. Ford and Volkswagen are, through QuantumScape, are looking at they've funded and bought into QuantumScape, so they're going to be getting solid state batteries. Probably not next year, probably not the year after, but we're talking about maybe 3 to 8 years down the road. Solid state batteries are going to be pretty darn incredible. Barely lose any of their functions after the equivalent of 300,000 miles. So these will be batteries that will be very likely much more reliable, and no matter what, won't degrade drastically with time. So if the USA can build up their charging network, things are right there going to be a lot better. And remember, Ford's helping with this. Ford is forcing dealers that want to sell electric vehicles to have chargers available 24/7, fast chargers available 24/7. That's really going to help, because there's a Ford dealer in like every city, even small towns. So we've got Volkswagen and Ford bringing us new battery technologies down the road, which will probably quite negatively impact the resale value of lithium ion, but will bring us amazing EVs. More reason to slow down this whole forced fast EV push with these crazy high fines, forcing the manufacturers to produce as many models as fast as possible with electric, to avoid fines on their gasoline-powered, petrol-powered vehicles. And quite frankly, when they're losing billions in EVs, or paying billions in fines to the government because they're not having a high enough fleet per average, mile per gallon average, what do you think's going down? Well, Mary Barra, Jim Farley, Mercedes, everyone has to say, oh, we're losing money. So what happens? They increase the price of the vehicles they are selling. So this is causing gasoline-powered vehicles to increase in price. A company, at the end of the day, needs to balance the books. This guy's not balancing the books. Trudeau's not balancing the books either. It's pretty frustrating that people that have no concept of balancing the books, they probably couldn't even balance their own books at home for just their family, but somehow they're really not balancing the books for the country, but somehow they're telling automakers that they need to, you could say, balance their books. They're saying, we don't care if you lose money with your EVs. You're going to produce EVs now, or you're going to pay us billions of dollars. And when Ford, GM, Toyota, Mercedes, Audi, BMW, Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, Chevrolet, GM, it doesn't matter who you are. At the end of the day, if you have a loss at your company, either because of you're losing money on your EVs you are selling, or you're paying billions of dollars to this guy, or for carbon credits from Tesla, what are you going to do? You're going to increase the price of your petrol-powered vehicles so that the books balance and you don't go bankrupt. Companies can't print money the way countries print money. And countries should be illegal for them to print money anyways, because it causes inflation. And as a result, it's just another form of tax. The money that governments spend, it's our money. They're spending money that we will have to pay back. And we see the immediate effects in inflation with groceries that are costing 2-3 times as much. So if you want more proof that things are going to get better, though, to be positive, Ford's partnership with VW is huge. And so is the $50 billion that Ford will be putting into EVs come 2026. Tesla has dropped prices as a response to the EV customer base. So that's all really positive news to show us that EVs are going in the right direction. We just can't make it all right now. You can't have the EPA bullying us, and by us, yes, it is us, because like so many people have commented on this show before, I can't afford an EV. Heck, a new petrol-powered vehicle. So many people can't afford a new gas-powered vehicle because the prices have gone up. And this is in relation to all these these EPA laws, these fines. So for the meantime, I hope we see more models like the Toyota Prius Prime, the RAV4 Prime, the Ford Escape plug-in, the Lincoln Corsair plug-in, because these are fantastic vehicles. They get really good miles per gallon. You can drive them long distances without the whole, you don't have to charge them. On your daily basis, you charge them every night so you can go to work and back, 100% electric. But when you need to do long distances for a good part of your trip, you'll get fantastic fuel mileage. And when that plug-in battery is empty, you don't need to go plug it and charge it in, because it'll just become a regular standard hybrid, saving you 20 to 30% on your fuel bill. Once the plug-in battery is empty, it's still a good hybrid with good miles per gallon fuel consumption rating. But manufacturers don't want to be pushed out of the hybrid game because it's a smart choice. I think it's the best choice available. Jeep Wrangler 4xe is also a good one. Let's hope the Bronco goes to plug-in. So with these plug-ins, you roughly save about 46% in fuel and emissions. Plug-ins, how that technology works is you have a bigger battery, much smaller than an EV battery, but much bigger than a hybrid battery. You know, for the RAV4, it's an 18 kilowatt battery compared to my Lightning with 133 kilowatts, or the EV Hummer, which has like 200 and some odd kilowatts. Well, traditional hybrid, 1 to 3 kilowatts, 20 to 30% better fuel economy. But plugins, you can actually use them as an all-electric vehicle. But when you've got that long distance, you're not hunting down a charger for a charger that may or may not function when you actually get there. And you get to cut your fuel bill easily in half. So hybrids are the way to go if they're plug-in. Let's not have laws make plugins not exist, because that would be a total, complete shame. Something else with EVs is it's going to be tough to make them really exciting, because they kind of look similar. They often use very similar electric engines. There's not, huge differences. It's not like petrol-powered vehicles where there's huge differences in design, power. So let's see. Companies need time to figure out how to do this right, how to make it attractive for buyers, how to make it profitable, so that they're not losing billions, like Ford losing probably roughly $4 billion for the 2023 year. $4 billion on their electric side. Now the petrol side will save the electric side of the company. Coincidentally, prices have gone up at Ford on their popular petrol models. Same thing for GM, Ram, Dodge. Every manufacturer has had to increase the prices of their gas vehicles because they're not just making 100% all vehicles that they produce electric. So that's what's going on right there. Sometimes, usually, more government intervention isn't the solution to problems. So companies need time to get this right. Now, Elon Musk did. So companies that are not fuel efficient are in deep water. So that's part of the deep water coverage. Toyota in the live, they're in deep water. Cummins in deep water. And Ram is in deep water also because they're selling less trucks. They're one of the few models that sold less vehicles in 23 than in 22, despite having much better inventory. And that's because the Ram customer base, part of the reason they originally bought was because the price was a lot less. And now their prices aren't that far off. They're very similar to GM and Ford. And you do have your diehard Ram fans that'll always buy a Ram no matter what, but you also had a good portion of Ram fans that said, I'm buying a Ram because it's significantly less expensive. And I've heard over the years people say, well, you know what, I want the all aluminum paneling on an F-150, but the Ram's so much less that I'm going to consider it. But when the price is similar, we've got problems. So for next week, please join us in our live next week. We're about to get into a rant, so if you're skin isn't thick, I won't be offended if you leave now. Don't step into one of my rants. choose to step into one of my rants, then be mad at me. I am warning you. This is coming with a warning label. You may be offended with what is coming up. But next week, please do come back to the show next week. We're going to be talking about 2023 auto sales. We'll get into depth with Ford and VW. Amazing news, what this means for the future. Let us know in the comments whether you think you should buy an EV now or wait, or maybe an EV will never interest you. Please let us know in the comments. M. Peugeot, thank you so much for the big donation for the rant. So that's why the rant is getting done. I told Marie, I said, maybe I'll get the show done in an hour and I'll be able to watch a TV show with you. But now I've got money on the table. I got to do this rant. But please come back next week.